Chainsaw History.
Hello, I'm Jamie Chambers, and this is my sister Bambi.
Hello.
If you enjoyed this episode of Chainsaw History, please pay it forward by scanning the QR code on your screen and sending a $5 per month donation on behalf of someone you care about. It's the patriotic thing to do. Welcome to Chainsaw History's bonus episode, everybody. Bambi, we've come full circle.
We're at the beginning.
We started with young George Washington as a thing that I didn't think anybody cared about, the part of his life before the American Revolution, which genuinely skipped over or glossed over by most middle and high school history courses, even AP.
Yeah, well, get to the meat. Nobody cares about the British and the French
And yet,
people.
As we learned at that very beginning 5 years ago, if it wasn't for the French and Indian War and all the shit that went down, it really kind of laid the groundwork to let the revolution happen. Even that big famous snake chopped into 13 pieces, join or die, that Ben Franklin published, that was from the French and Indian War and an idea of uniting the colonies even back then, not necessarily against the British, but to still be a united force instead of just being separate little colonies squabbling amongst themselves for more crumbs from the king. But yes, I don't think we even got to it yet. What we just got back from was watching the movie Young Washington.
Oh boy.
By Angel Studios.
Angel Studios had a lot to say, both before and after the movie.
And lots of previews for other Angel Studios movies that all seem to celebrate the lives of these true fucking patriots.
I mean, there was also one about the apocalypse and a dinosaur horror movie. Which, by the way, the dinosaur horror movie.
That wasn't an Angel Studios. That was from J. That was from J.
You're right.
That is J.J.
Abrams.
Yeah, that's
right.
Robot. That's going to be a great movie, if nothing else.
I was like, I'm in for this movie.
Dinosaurs in suburbia, yes.
I mean,
are you desperate to watch the life of Hershey? And how we got a town named after him, helped with child slavery and other.
I don't really like it's like, and this is how the corporation started. Let's put a heart shape on it. Whoop.
Yeah.
Never mind how terrible these people were.
And getting back to Angel Studios on this movie, one thing I learned was they were selling tickets to this movie before a single shot was filmed. They literally were using early ticket sales as like a crowdfunding and way to drum up support for the movie. So people had bought it. Then they were allowed to reschedule once there was actually a schedule. Because again, the movie didn't exist when they were selling tickets for the thing.
Okay, full disclosure, I was day drinking during this film. So I am more fucked up than I have ever been while recording this podcast.
Excellent. But the good news is we're not doing a hard history thing. Neither one of us have notes. We just have our own memories of a movie and then a topic we did 5 years ago. So, but in order to help us out, I am going to try to organize this. But first, I was just going to say, yeah, Angel Studios is got its own thing. The first time I heard of them was when they did the movie The Sound of Freedom, which was also propaganda. And they literally called this, the movie Young Washington, they call it a faith-adjacent movie.
Oh, ew.
Which someone in a comment section asked what that meant, and my reply was lots of violence, no titties. And we got both, baby. 0 titties in this movie, tons of violence.
Well, fair. Now, full disclosure,
a
second full disclosure.
I thought you were already disclosed fully before.
I think that this movie was fully worth all the money I paid to see it, which was
exactly, yes. Just so you know, we had free passes to the delightful movie tavern in Roswell, Georgia, and
for winning trivia.
Yeah, from winning trivia long ago, but we now do trivia somewhere else. But thanks to this trivia wins, we did not have to pay any money to Angel Studios or anybody, and we got free popcorn.
It was delightful.
The alcohol, however, we did pay for it.
We did. It was worth every penny.
Oh, so to help organize our thoughts, we're going to start first with we'll break this into 3 sections. So the first I'm going to call Cinema Jorge. So this time we're going to discuss George Washington, the movie, just purely as a movie. Not worrying about accuracy, not worrying about how like the politics or any of that, but just the film experience as if this was a fictional character and all that. So first, just what did you like? A general review. Did you like it? Did you not like it?
I liked it. Actually, I liked it a whole lot more than I thought I would. I came in with not even low expectations, but like negative expectations. So it actually pleasantly surprised me. The violence was both gratuitous and, it was all right.
It was also like appropriate violence for the most part. We'll get to that in a second. I also, in general, liked the movie and actually had a lot more respect for it until we got to the third act, and then when it went unhinged. But we'll get to that because we're gonna like try to plot summarize in a second. But yeah, so in general, I wouldn't recommend paying. I don't want to pay Angel Studios any money, but if this is like on streaming, or you just happen to go to a BitTorrent site or whatever,
if you just happen to have free movie
or
passes, go see this film.
Or wait a year and this will be on the dollar bin and
whatever
for your Blu-ray. Because the screen we saw, there were two old bastards who were in there joking around with each other before we even got there, and that was it. So there were two potential paying customers of this movie, and even then, they might have gotten those tickets bought for them because apparently, there's a QR code. That was the joke we made. The end of this movie. That speaking of the crowdfunding idea was it's not just a movie experience. At the end, you get Kelsey Grammer, TV's beloved Frasier, shaking us down with a QR code saying we need to pay it forward and buy other people tickets for a movie we ourselves did not pay for. So we said,
no.
Fuck you, Frasier, no. But it's literally hilarious. And then the QR code stayed on the screen while the credits rolled. So they're encouraging. So apparently you can actually go to some website and maybe there's just free tickets up for grabs that somebody else bought for you. So if you want to do that, that also is fine. Let somebody buy your just don't pay like a lot of money.
Don't give these people money.
Because, we'll get to it. Because
I'll give Movie Tavern my money, but Angel Studios, you get none of it.
So before we try to like synopsize the plot of this movie, I will say I have a headcanon from behind the scenes that I have no basis for. Like I don't know real much of anything other than a few things I heard about the production history of this movie, and I'll note a few things as we go along. But I get the impression that the guy who made this movie, and this was apparently a passion project of this dude, this director apparently couldn't get tickets to Hamilton, and so he was so disappointed he decided to dive into parts of George Washington's life that aren't talked about a lot, and that's when he came upon this story, just like I did when we were starting this podcast. I was like, whoa, this is an interesting story. And because of the way the movie went, I think that his original version was a much more honest depiction of Washington, who I would still say like Washington there are things to admire about him. The real unvarnished Washington was still an impressive guy. However, this movie definitely,
he's our nation's hero.
We'll get to the actual historical accuracy
this
part
was
later.
A love letter.
But it's like I could see where it was trying to at least put some of the black eyes and unfair things, even though it got glossed over. And so I'm like wondering if there was an earlier script at Angel Studios and other writers, like how much of this got varnished.
It got a little sugar coating.
Yeah. And that's the thing. We're good to accuracy later, but like I said, I feel like there was a version of this where the filmmaker really wanted to be more honest or try to give a much less of a, what this was, because
spoonful of sugar.
Because spoiler alert, the very last words on the screen before fucking Frasier shakes you down for more money is the words, "The United States of America," a thing that doesn't exist and wouldn't exist for a long time after the events of the movie. So it's like this may not have started as a propaganda piece, but that is absolutely what it turned into by the end, especially by the end of the movie. So
yeah, well, not historically accurate at all, but the actor was very cute.
Yeah, that's actually where I wanted to go next. Let's talk about cast, and we got to go with our lead, the young man who I do not remember his name. I have to look again.
I have no idea. I just want to think of him as square jaw.
Actually, I do. You know what?
He had a very square jaw.
So yeah, the title role, I went to British actor William Franklin Miller. a young, this is like early in his career. This is his first leading role, from what I understand, and
He was
he was good. He was good in the lead. I do think it's funny that they had to cast a British actor to play George Washington, but he did fine. And I do think in most ways they even said they cast partly they wanted someone who physically resembled Washington, and except for the teeth, they pretty much nailed it.
Yeah, I mean, if George Washington would have had dentistry, like modern dentistry, that is what he would look like for sure.
And he was tall, and I like the fact
he's got that square jawline. I mean,
I did like the fact that they emphasized his tallness, like he loomed over everybody else in the movie.
He banged his head at one point on the ceiling.
Like the tallest other characters came up to his shoulders, which is the way we described him those years ago, and also his youth was emphasized.
Oh yeah, he looked like a baby, and they called him a baby.
Yeah, that was one of the parts. No, I know, and I took enough high school French when the guy said les enfants. I was like, oh, he called him a baby. And then sure enough, that's when the later scene is like, are you even old enough to shave? I did hear parts where he was trying to struggle with the accent they did for him, and they said they had a hard time figuring it out too, because it's like they were trying to come up with, he's not going to sound like a modern person from Virginia, but he's not
like the British hillbillies, like the Virginians.
So they almost gave him a generic American accent, except you could tell there's every time once in a while he'd pronounce a word kind of weird, and I could say,
which would make sense if you were raised by someone who was a British officer.
But his performance was good for what this movie asked him to do, which included both, trying to be you see him go from the pure young underdog who everybody doesn't believe in, to you see him get the whole authority, and you see him humbled and humiliated, and then come back, and then you see him become a fucking action star where he's just shooting people in the face and slicing people with his saber,
for the
cutting up frogs left and right.
I mean, it was a little glorious.
Oh, in terms of actions, that was pretty fucking cool. We'll get to that, but like I said, in terms of like the action, he nailed all the different parts. Even did okay with the little bit of romance that the movie gave him to do.
Yeah, I mean,
they had the flirtation.
For the record, I was a little smitten, so the fact that she was too, it was all very believable.
Yeah. So he was good. And then, of course, the supporting cast, that's where they actually stacked the names. First, we had Ben Kingsley, we see as Governor Dinwiddie, or Scottish Governor Dinwiddie. And Ben Kingsley is great in everything he does. I love me some Ben Kingsley. And he was perfect as a snooty-ass aristocrat, but even still, of course, at the end, gave Washington the measure of respect he'd earned.
Because his brother at the very beginning told him, you can command obedience, but you have to earn respect.
So yeah, all the supporting parts didn't have a lot of time, but you got your Ben Kingsley, you said you had Kelsey Grammer playing Lord Fairfax, and he was also quite good, despite the fact I was going to fucking kick Kelsey Grammer in the nuts most.
I mean, he's a bad person, but he's a good actor.
Yeah, and the way he played him,
everything was fine.
Again, they all brought the 10 minutes or less of screen time that was needed, and then of course we have my beloved Andy Serkis.
Andy Serkis,
my precious,
really was excellent, and his performance. It's like, I just want to be Daryl from The Walking Dead, but a little bit more hillbilly instead of just redneck.
Well, Andy Serkis wasn't a hillbilly; he was General Braddock.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, this is day drinking.
That's what you get. No, you thought just because he was the most Gollum-like character.
He was.
That's amazing. You thought he was. No, there was a hillbilly. I have no idea who that guy was. He was great. However,
he was, and he reminded me so much of fucking
Norman Reedus.
Yeah, Norman Reedus. Thank you.
Yeah.
Again, I've been day drinking.
He was,
and I was also. Like, I waked and baked all day.
No clue who. Bambi loved the redneck. He was great.
He was great.
I do not know his name. However, General Braddock was was played by Andy Serkis. He the one who dragged his piano
Mm.
through the wilderness despite bitching about everything, and then ultimately was
Oh, he just had this itty bitty part.
he was a tragic figure who got shot and died. But then he passed on the literal not a torch but a sash to Washington of authority so that he would go around, and so in the end he understood, and he understood who the right man for the fucking job was. But Andy Serkis, yeah.
He was the only man for the job at the time.
But it also showed like up until he got shot, he was still just kept it together. He kept that British stiff upper lip and was keeping the discipline. But then he got shot in the chest, and that really takes it out of you.
Yeah, well, that and everybody was like, "Fuck these people."
And there are some lesser members of the cast, but yes, other than Bambi's beloved redneck, I don't know.
Right.
Don't know anybody else.
The other redneck was great too.
Like everybody,
there was 3 very good hillbilly rednecks in there, and all 3 of them were excellent. But lead redneck, he was the one who took him through the wilderness.
Yeah, I'm feeling bad because what's her face? Is Mary Louise Parker played his mother, Mary. So yeah, she played his mother, which made her seem smarter than the woman I got the impression of through history. But once again, this is not the accuracy section. She did a good job with what the movie asked her to do, because that all of their supporting actors were great, even the people I hadn't heard of.
No, all the acting was really, really well done.
And the movie was well directed. Like I thought, but like the scenes were well shot and blocked. The pacing kept going despite the fact that, well, part of it was because the script shuffled history around to give it a little bit more pacing that works for a film. But again, that's what it's supposed to do. So yeah, the director, the
cinematography was excellent.
So I got nothing against this director, except I'll be suspicious of him if he only does Angel Studios films. I'd like to see him freed from their prison and go do like something for somebody else. Because this movie itself, weren't bad, except for some of my beefs with it that we'll get to. I guess now would be the time where we just talk about, like, we'll go through the plot of the movie real quick. We decided to start in media res, like in the middle of the action. Washington is laying in his sick cart, and
and you can tell he is, like, with the way the camera was shaking. He was not well.
We started this Dutch angle, so it looks like everything's sideways, and there's explosions coming out. He's like, here's ringing in his ears. He's got fucking tinnitus, and he splashes his boots into the muddy ground.
Which, by the way, from someone who has on and off tinnitus, it very much sounds like that. So, like, that sound was accurate. In fact, there were times when it would happen during the movie, and I was wondering if it was the movie or was just me, and I was so happy that it was the movie.
No, it was just George, even though it's like, it's so funny because they even say later, when we loop back to it, that he was sick with dysentery, but they pretend that dysentery is a different disease. They do not address the fact that he was shitting his lungs out.
Well, yeah, that would not have been very good for cinematography.
And we'll get to that for the accuracy section. But either way, they just sort of ignore just what dysentery is just for the sake of it. So he's just like, he just vaguely sick. And then, so at the beginning of the movie, he jumps out and we get immediate shots. And that's when I got worried about what the movie was going to be like. Because he instantly just like grabs a horse pistol off the ground and shoots a Frenchman in the face who was on horseback, and he's like staggering around and still manages to kill like 3 people as he's trying to figure out what's going on. I was like, oh my God, this is what I thought it was going to be. This is fucking George Washington, the Rambo
I was excited for
I was like, whoa. And then
it's baby George.
It zips back to him, little kid, probably the weakest actor in the movie. Sorry, kid. The movie asked a lot of this boy, the emotional way. It's like, we meet younger George Washington the day of his father's funeral.
Yeah,
and he's sad.
He's really sad. His mom says that he hasn't spoken since his dad's death, and his brother rides in and starts talking to wee George.
I'm your dad now, basically.
He's like, I'm gonna make sure you're gonna be okay, my dude.
I'll be around ish.
Yeah.
And so this one, that's one thing. So it establishes this sort of second father figure in his brother Lawrence, who does look out for him, but can only do so much too. It's like acknowledging, as his mother said, the it's like they have 10 slaves to deal with
Yeah.
on there. Because, yeah, it's like, if I remember correctly, George Washington, they had 2 slaves when he was 4. There's never a moment in his life the dude did not have black people taking care of him.
Yeah. But he wasn't an aristocrat.
No,
he didn't have the money.
No, nor do you have the education. That's another one. Says,
No,
Dad's
brother came in.
Dad's dead. Things suck. And he's like, yeah, you can't go to school because you got to like work the family farm. And George is like, fuck you. I'm going to school anyway. And then they slam the door in his face and he cries about it.
Yeah.
He's like, that sucks.
And then his brother came in and was like, well, I can still like,
he's like,
teach you books and shit.
Like, I'm going to make you read the classics. And also, and it's like, he just implies he homeschooled him and he's like just as educated as anybody else. So
the education of young George starts. He started with books.
Yeah.
They went on to fencing.
Yes, he's learning. His brother teaches him all the important shit.
All the shit.
To become an upper, because he's trying to be an uppery muckety muck. He wants to fit in with high society. And his brother
told him, he was like, this is a lofty dream that you are never going to fucking reach. My dude, you are not going to do it.
Look,
but
you're a colonial peasant and you have a major glass ceiling above you.
Especially since he was the half brother of a landowner, not even a wealthy landowner, just a landowner.
But always on the verge of something big. So anyway, the movie Lawrence is a very, like, he's maybe the most pure person in the movie. He just seems nothing but kind, devoted to his brother. He can't do everything for him, but he feels bad about even that. And then it's like, well, it really sucks. It really sucks, young George, that I am dying of tuberculosis, and so I'm now going to.
We haven't gotten to that part yet.
I must cough now. That's coming later. So we get
the education of young George, and then, on the day of his father's death, his brother gave him the compass.
Yeah,
which is a big deal.
His
brother's compass,
the surveying tool, which that becomes his first job. Is the other than tenant farming was being a land surveyor. And so that does become into a thing. And so we literally have this one transition where, as his brother was teaching young George, then we jump up to our current, the actor for the rest of the movie. And this, like, he's riding the horse as a little kid, and then suddenly it fades into him riding the horse as a young man, who I believe is supposed to be, like, at this point, like 20 years old.
Yeah, and by that point, George is an expert horse rider.
Yes. And now at this point, he is this dashing, handsome, tall dude. However,
and the first thing he does is fucking break into a party.
Sneaks into a party because he's always trying to get in above his station. His brother was invited, and so he thinks that basically means he can be the +1. And he gets again turned away, so he sneaks in through the servants' entrance, and literally just at first he tries to he's like, oh, we need more ice. Come on, slaves, just hand me some ice. We're like, oh, we're gonna let you carry it in for us. So then he just sheepishly asks them which way in.
But they tell him.
Yeah, well, they're going to do. A white knight told them to let him in.
Yeah, whatever.
So he sneaks into the party, which is where he can run in. His goal going into the party is to try to impress Lord Fairfax.
And the first person he runs into is Lord Fairfax's very pretty daughter.
Yes. So he has a meet cute with Sally Fairfax, and they have delightful banter.
And then she was like, yeah, you're not even supposed to be here. Bye.
Yeah, she was like, yeah, you are a loser, but you amuse me for 5 entire minutes. And then, but the idea, though, is to catch Lord Fairfax. He does talk to his brother, and he does a little bit of schmoozing in the party before he sees Lord Fairfax dart upstairs because he hates his own parties. And so he barges in on Kelsey Grammer.
And yeah, and so then he kind of charms his way into the room and has a nice little conversation.
He's like,
manages to get a commission for survey.
Yeah, he's like, you own all this land, and you have no idea what it even is. I am a trained and experienced surveyor. Cough, cough. I can, go in and do a proper land survey, so you know how much your land is worth. And so that's why he's able to get kind of his first job going out into the wilderness.
Yep. And so he manages to
get
commission.
He takes a small team of dudes, including the one guy who's sort of implied to be.
One dude was the only one that was really with him.
Yeah, Christopher Guest, which that name always messed with me, even in the original history. But it was like that was his bro, and then they had this whole team of other guys to go out in there. Well, he does the job. He surveys the land, but
Mm-hmm.
that's also where the first time you get to meet our Native American friends. You have the Mingo chief they called the Half King, which I think his name was like Tanagrason or something, if my brain reminded, and which I never could pronounce anyway. But everybody called him the Half King, which was that sort of half respect. It's like, well, this guy's important, so he's half a king, at least among his own people. And so Washington ran into him to establish his character, even though I don't know if you met him yet, real life, but we'll get to that. By the time they come back, that's when they meet them, is when they're all half dead anyway. They're freezing to death,
Mm-hmm.
ready to abandon their horses. And then after they meet the natives, they take a little raft across the river.
And almost drown
They
and
fall,
freeze.
yeah, they fall into the river and nearly freeze to death. And finally, they make it back, lucky to be alive.
Because they were able to walk across the river because it froze.
Yep, which seemed like a bad idea, but it turned out
Fine.
only way, like that would turn out to be the miracle that saved their lives. The river froze over, so they can get off that shitty little island that's still famous to this day. So yeah, then we get to the part where he's able to use this to work his way into his first military commission.
Yep, which is
Because he's like,
was
yeah,
a bad
yeah,
idea.
he's like, yeah, we saw this French fort with a bunch of French people in it, and so we tell you about it. And it's like, now we can deliver this message. Let's say, hey, frogs, get the fuck out of here. This is our land. The French are like, no, this is our land. And the Half King's like, motherfuckers, this has always been our land.
So yeah, but he made it back.
So
him and his friend make it back. They didn't freeze to death.
They didn't freeze to death with any.
They delivered the message.
They had to go deliver the message.
And they were like, you need to take your militia and go tell these French people to go fuck right off. And everybody's...
So deliver a executive message.
So he was really excited. He was like, I'm going to take my little commission. And everybody around him was like, you're going to get fucked in this. Don't do this. This is bad.
The reason they're not sending British officers to do this is because you are expendable. And it's like, so if you do... If you
do a good job, then it's their
credit.
victory. And if you fuck up, it is your fault.
Yes. And fuck up he does.
Oh boy, howdy.
Even though cinematic George Washington is let's just say almost a victim of circumstance, because they delivered the first message, and the British were like, yeah, thanks for that, you may go fuck off. And then he goes, so now we got to deliver a second message, but this time with a direct threat of force. And so but they're also told that if anybody interferes with them, they are allowed to kill them. And that's when the Virginians are like, we don't want to get into the bullshit war for these colonial powers. And so yeah, but how about we're not here to die, we're here to get paid.
Yeah, right.
He
actually said that.
We're supposed to be messengers. This isn't about fun. And George's like, no, we must fight for His Majesty, the King, the crown, and glory.
Because that's what he really wanted. He wanted the glory and the...
Well, yeah, he wanted to make a name for himself. He wanted to be important. He wanted to break through so he could be one of the important people.
And oh, buddy, did he break through. And again...
not yet, but that's the thing. Because first he fucks up. Now, even though, so the scouts tell him there's some French dudes down in a glen. And so they position themselves all around, and Washington tells everybody to hold. Nobody shoot anybody. We're going to deliver this warning to them. And then somebody just randomly fires a shot. And George's like, well, God damn it, we don't want to do that. And then the fighting starts rushing down there, and he's like, no, stop killing people. And then the natives are killing people, and the Virginians are killing people. And it's like...
The French are killing people. I mean, it was a smorgasbord of people trying to kill each other.
Oh, yeah. That's when the Half King kills finishes off the French dude who they'd already met in the earlier part. Because he delivered the message, and that was the part where he called him a baby. He called him and asked if he was even old enough to shave.
The man was getting a shave.
Yeah, because
he was
literally getting a shave like a gentleman, and then they fucking shot at him when they were just sitting there.
Yeah.
But movie George didn't mean for any of this to happen. He said, no, stop. God damn it. Stop killing people. Fuck.
And then, yeah, the Half King went in there and just fucking...
He chopped that
guy's face off.
Yeah, just sucked to be him. Boom. And then it turned out, that guy was the cousin of the dude running Fort Duquesne, which made it personal. And also, that's when he came back, and that was when... Ben Kingsley like, you started a war, and he's like, yes, you did. And but that was so they do that. And Washington's men they get they get ambushed and hounded by the French, and then they have to build Fort Necessity, this shitty little ring of
And
which
they
they
told him when they were building it, his dudes, his little redneck posse was like,
this place
this is gonna flood.
it's gonna flood, and
Also, they're gonna be able to shoot us from the trees, and we're gonna be sitting ducks. This place sucks. This is a bad idea. And like, no, it's gonna be great.
So they're gonna fight us like good proper gentlemen and just stand there like bowling pins, and we'll do the same thing. And then whoever dies the most loses. And everyone's like, "What the fuck?" They're they're sitting there.
It's a terrible way to do.
They're sitting there having to try to dig trenches and bail water as immediately it starts to rain.
And his native friends were like, "Whoa, see ya, this is dumb.
Go fuck
yourself."
So the half king and his boys split, as they of course they should. And Washington's like this, and everybody keeps telling him, "No, we need to abandon this position."
Yeah,
and then later,
is bad.
And then as they start dying, then he decides he wants to have a huge heroic fight, and a bunch of people die. So so he's like, "No, retreat." So they retreat back inside the fort, and then that's when his buddy Chris Guest dies.
Yeah, pretty much like almost in his arms, and he's like, they're like, "Yeah, retreat," and so then he agrees to the retreat.
He lets the guy do the white flag of snow.
And then he fucking just signs the thing where he's like, "Yeah, I started this war. I suck. I'm a piece of shit."
Yeah, he also,
and they were like, "Here's my journals. Go publish them in the paper."
He signed that. He signed. That was the thing that showed
it was this is my fault.
He signed the confession of murdering the dude. And it's like, oopsie. And now it's when Ben Kingsley's like, "You started a war." So George Washington goes back to the family farm. After having resigned his commission in shame.
In disgrace, he felt really shitty. His friend is dead.
But that's when Mary Louise Parker, his mom, is here to give him a pep talk and tell him that even though you fucked up and tons of people died, and you should absolutely never lead men again.
They still give you permission to go do it.
Failure is a great teacher, and that means you, my friend, have a PhD. And George Washington, "You're right. Nobody's failed harder than me. I know more than anybody. So I'm going to go back and fix this shit. I am going to be...
Oh, well...
I will have my dream of being a British officer."
He got back just to find out that his brother was also dead.
Yeah, because as mentioned before, he was called...
So now his brother's dead and his friend's dead, and he's just like, "Fuck this, I'm going to go be a farmer." And his mom was like, "You really just need a little bit of talking to."
Yeah, in an earlier scene we glossed over, Lawrence was coughing blood into a hanky. And it was like...
he was dying of
tuberculosis. Yes, George, it is the consumption, they say. So yeah, George, after just getting a 5-minute pep, he was at the farm for like 5 minutes. He's like, "You're right, I gotta go back. I gotta be part of this war."
It was like several years later. And they even said that it was several years.
You just, it's so hard to tell because the movie had to just keep going.
Yeah.
There was lots of things where in theory there was a lot of space and time, but the movie did not have time for that shit. So it's like moments later it felt like...
I mean, for the record, neither did our podcast. I don't know what happened in those years. He like farmed and shit. He became a farmer. He discovered that he actually likes farming.
That's when he banged Sally Fairfax. Well, her husband, who is his friend. This movie makes them way more like not even frenemies, more like just adversaries. Like, "Oh, I hate this guy. He's a dick."
They seemed very adversarial, but yeah, like in like history, wasn't that like one of his good friends?
Yeah, no, that was his good friend, and it's like the letters and then certain details we don't know for sure, but that's when everyone's...
we didn't get into the romance.
But whatever. Again, we're saving that for a little bit. So the movie just zips us back. George's like, "Yeah, I fucked up, but because Mom said experience, like, failure is the best teacher, and so now I know everything." So that's when he goes and asks Dinwiddie to let him go back, and he ends up talking to General Braddock, played by our boy Andy Serkis, our precious. And he's basically, but he's at this point, Washington, all of his previous pride is washed away. He's like, "I am here to just help. I ask for no money again. I ask for no rank. I just want to be an aide, and I will help you because I have these maps I surveyed, and also I know how to get through this country, and you clearly don't."
And he was like, no, we're British officers. It'll only take us a week. He's like, "It'll take you a month if you're lucky."
Yep.
good luck with
Yeah,
that.
and that's
he
if
was
the
like,
weather's on your
load
side.
off of my piano.
And he's also, yeah, so it's like, also they'll attack from the trees. Like, look, but once he saw the maps, Braddock is like, yeah, well, you can at least come and tag along. And yes, there was later we found out you could hear a piano playing in the middle of the goddamn woods, and it's because General Braddock had literally brought his actual piano with him so he wouldn't have to not play in the evenings when he's having his fine British officer supper.
Yeah.
You do not miss tea time and piano playing.
His redneck trio really did. They made fun of him a lot for that.
Yep.
And then they were like, yeah, this whole lugging a piano thing sucks ass.
And that's also one of the things that the movie, at least this one of the story arcs, is this idea that in the beginning George Washington, young George, was striving to be one of these aristocrats and important British officers, but by the end he was one of the boys. He was a Virginian and he was a rough and tumble dude.
He bled with these motherfuckers.
Yeah. So anyway, they're going through the woods, dealing with all this shit, and that's when
lugging a bunch of stuff, and then you can see Washington.
And he's working really hard. He's not feeling good, but he's still like, I'm gonna keep working.
I'm cutting down this tree. I'm doing all these.
I'm writing letters. We're delivering orders. I'm riding around, and then finally, he falls off his horse in a coma, and that's when
we wake up with shaky cam at
we'll
night.
We'll call her a nurse, but the woman who's taking care of him was just like, yeah,
some lady.
It's dysentery.
There was some lady, and she was the only lady there. Yeah. So
she was an all-purpose lady.
I mean, she was the one nurse.
She was a sturdy 40-year-old woman. But she was one of dysentery. But like I said, in this world, dysentery just means he's weak and feverish and delirious and has ringing in his ears. Mm-hmm. And so that's it. No poopy pants. no screaming.
You know, for the record, I didn't want to see that.
Yeah, he was like, you know what? We don't need any of that. So dysentery.
They didn't give him his little horse donut pillow for his hemorrhoids.
So
nothing.
We get to that point. So while Washington's out, we follow as they advance, and they're gonna cross the river. Before they can even get near the river, they start hearing howls from the trees, and that's when the shots start firing. And the French, the dirty French, they're hidden the trees despite their bright white, like freshly bleached uniforms, that somehow they blended in, and they
really
did not see them at all.
Fantastically.
But they come out of the tree line in formation, and then plus you got the natives just chopping people up and howling, and so it's really bad. And then
lines break,
and then the others, cannons being fired and all this stuff, and that's when we loop back to the beginning of the movie where Washington staggers up from his sick bed to see what the fuck is going on, and that's when his buddy, buddy in air quotes, who married his girl, he's like, he said Braddock sounded the retreat. It's like, what? We wouldn't do that. We're homicidally brave. That's when the goes.
And he was like, we're just gonna have to leave these guys to themselves.
And that's when we go. It's just start a series with some breaks for plot stuff, but a series of breathtaking action sequences as Washington comes out of his sick bed.
Just charged the field.
Like he was awake for less than 30 seconds before he shot his first frog. Mm-mm. And then after that, it was just lots of it. So he runs back to Braddock to see what's going on.
He's stealing guns off of dead people.
We cut to Braddock, and Braddock, to his credit, is keeping it totally together. He's like, form up, present, fire, and they're like doing their thing, and then he's seeing what's going on, and he redirects the men. So it's, despite the fact he is not really equipped for this type of fighting, he is a British officer, and he never once acts like a coward, or you see his eyes get a little wide, but he
holds it together, and then he gets shot.
And he's like, oh,
that's dying.
Oh, jolly good then, I will die. But then he lays there, and then as Washington gets there, he's like, you sounded the retreat. He's like, I sounded no retreat, in the full Andy Serkis throaty voice. And then he tells Washington he gives him the sash. He's like, they'll know your orders come from me. As he's bleeding out everywhere, and he tells him, save as many as you can. And so Washington's like, we're not going to retreat. We're going to win this motherfucker.
But really, it was just like, we need strategic retreat.
But the movie only sort of mentions that later, because for now, Washington first, the whole thing is, even in the before that, when he first met up with the asshole who married his girl, what the fuck, I keep forgetting his name. But anyway, that's the guy who also said that his men, he's like, you have no men. And he's like, no, the Virginians, my people, my boys, my bros. We and he's like, yeah, they're done. He's like, they're down there and they're gonna die.
They're fucked. He's like, those are front line.
Washington, save yourself. Come with me. And he's like, no, we don't do that. So when he gets back there, that's when he has to charge through the French lines to get to his boys who are pinned down near the river. And so that's when we get the most unhinged. That's when I literally laughed out loud because it
really was hilarious, though.
Funny.
It was so like the top.
He's riding horseback now. And this one, he's already been like, you see his clothes get clipped a couple of times during all of this. Bullets are getting his clothes. He gets one horse shot out from under him at one point, and he literally first it makes.
Which, by the way, you said that was an actual thing.
That was a thing that happened. He did a horse shot out from under him, and he did have some bullet holes. I don't know if it's quite as many as the movie did, but whatever. We'll get to that. But the thing is, so George charges through completely recklessly through everything. He's a musket in one hand, a horse pistol in the other. He's a saber at his belt, and he uses all of them from horseback, then off of horseback, as he's literally chopping and shooting his way through French. And every once in a while, a native runs up and he shoots that guy too, or just chops him with his saber, and he makes it to the Virginians, and they're pinned out.
And apparently, like, one of the natives, like, shot him in the head, but it only hit his hat.
Yeah, he has a hole through his hat.
Which is a big deal later.
He has holes through his coat. Through all his clothes. And it's like, you see every once in a while.
But no shit on his pants.
But they did. And I thought it was adorable, considering it's literally called Young Washington, and we know who George Washington is. But the movie uses two fake-out deaths of George Washington. Once when the horse gets shot and he goes crashing down, and it cuts for a second. It's like, holy shit, he's dead. Because it made it look like he was shot, not the horse. In fact, the movie barely even clarifies. It just looks like they both went down and he just gets up because he's invincible. And then later on...
True story.
Yeah. And then later on, a cannonball just explodes underneath his feet. It's like, oh, he just got vaporized.
Well, you could tell that it was supposed to have hit him, like, hit the ground before him, and you just see the ground, his silhouette with the ground exploding.
He still would have been killed. Luckily, this point in the movie, like the earlier part of the movie that was more grounded and felt more real.
Oh, no, unhinged.
But once we got into the third act, it was like, that's when it felt like Angel Suicide. And now we're in action movie mode. And that's when I saw that ad, or not an ad, but it was like a review that said this movie went full Rambo. And that's what it did. Because he killed at least 15 people in this movie, if not more.
I mean,
directly.
We talked about the movie The Patriot earlier today privately, and it is what it reminded me of, is the very end, like the unhinged scene with fucking Mel Gibson and
when it gets completely ridiculous.
Yes. Soon as it just went fucking nuts, I was like, yeah, this feels like a blockbuster movie now. Congratulations, movie.
So Washington makes it down to the Virginians, and apparently the only thing they needed was his leadership, because once he got there, he just told them what to do, and they were able to shoot their way out just by being a little more organized. And that's all they needed, because it turned out that despite his shitty leadership earlier, failure is the best teacher, and I think they said it a couple more times. It's like, turns out, see, all of that failure was just there to make him as awesome as possible. He'd failed so hard he became bulletproof. That's what it takes.
Well, bullets did not get George Washington. Not ever.
So, yeah. So anyway, they're able to shoot their way out, and literally, they literally win, because they march triumphantly back to the camp where he's like, yeah, you said it was a retreat. And he's like, well, the battle was lost, Washington, so of course we should retreat. So that's no, we did, and we won without your help, motherfucker. We're Virginians.
Now we're gonna retreat.
Well, then later, what's the thing? They only call it a retreat later when we're back in Dinwiddie's office. But the movie, at least up to that point, it was a total victory, because, like I said, they weren't like retreating and running.
For the record, not dying would have been an absolute.
They go back to the camp.
That's a win,
and the camp, they were just tending to the wound and just hanging out. And then Washington just shows up and like, yeah, we won. So fuck off. And then later, then we get back to Dinwiddie's office. It's like, oh, Washington led this strategic retreat. He's reading from like the newspaper, which I think that was an actual quote from the real newspapers of the time. But anyway, so you basically get back to Washington.
You were humiliated, but now you're redeemed, my boy.
You've redeemed yourself, and that's when Washington shows his turn that he has no longer got his ambitions to be a British officer. That he's happy to accept commission as colonel in the newly established like permanent, whatever the new name for the Virginia militia, but one that was going to be a more established force.
Also, he was like, I don't want to wear these red uniforms where we're literal targets. Let's wear these blue, because Virginia.
Well, they had said earlier, because indigo grew locally, so the local people dyed. Blue was the big dye, because that's what they could afford. And so he's like, I don't want to be a fucking red coat anymore. I want a blue coat. So the movie ends with him finally riding in with his nice uniform as Colonel Washington.
And they all had new spanky
blue uniforms. And then they were cheering for Virginia. And that was the final shot of Washington, at least, literally cheering is like, yeah, for Virginia. So none of this more for the, God save the king bullshit. He was a Virginian.
And yeah, well, his little fucking frenemy buddy, when he was talking to him, he was just like, I'm not going to die for this land. He was like, this isn't my land.
My country's miles away.
He's like, my country's over there. And he was just like, that's the difference between you and me. This is my land. And that is why George Washington was badass.
He ended as a man of Virginia. And then the movie fades to black, and we get some title, like some text out where it says, this is what happened next, and this is what happened next.
And then America.
And then the thing, and then on July 4th, 1776, and then literally it ends this talking about the establishment of the United States of America, and all the text fades except for the words United States of America, and it just holds on that with stirring music playing in the background before it fades, and we see a QR code. Because the movie ain't over until Kelsey Grammer tells us we had to buy other people movie tickets. Which was incredible. And then the QR code just stays on the screen. That's when we're like, and we're out. We were out the moment where we realized Kelsey Grammer wasn't going to talk about the movie. He was literally just trying to bully us into paying more for the movie. It's fuck you. We paid $0 and we're paying not a cent more.
Not ever.
So that was the movie's plot. And again, it was a fun ride. So that's enough of the cinema Jorge. But now we can get to the next section. And this is the one I call Georgeosity. So this is probably a shorter one where it's just like not worrying so much about direct details and historical accuracy, but how much of the vibe and general Georginess that carried through. And I would say I was pleasantly surprised at how much of the George Washington that I pulled out of that. Like, even though it tried to turn it into a failure, actually it gives you superpowers. But it's like it really did. It softened some things in certain ways, but it's still like it literally. But
Jamie,
it gave the idea of him being a.
You forgot the best part of the movie.
What's the best part of the movie?
When after the big battle, and the Half King comes back and tells him that the fucking indigenous people want to go talk to him, and he goes, "Yeah, we go to him."
Oh, you're right. Oh shit! How do we forget this?
I didn't.
Okay.
So yeah, after they get done with the whole battle, he's in camp, and then, his little pals, the Half King and his buddies, he's like, yeah, you need to come with us. You need to come with us. This other dude wants to talk to you. And the other dude was like, yeah, I tried to shoot you in the head, but you have an aura of protection around you. And they were like, you are special. You are sent by Providence and destiny. And I laughed and laughed and laughed.
Oh, God, that was where we both burst out laughing in that part, because it was like...
Oh, it was the greatest part of the whole movie. It made it so worth it.
George Washington was blessed by America itself imbued him as this warrior of destiny. And that's why, even when you're trying to shoot him in the face with 3 muskets, it ain't going to work. You'll just put holes in his head.
He's just invincible. The only person that can kill George Washington is, in fact... George Washington, because he pretty much got himself bled to death. R.I.P.
So yeah, I think that as far as the George Austin of it all, the movie did a fair job of getting like, because one of the ideas that I always had was that because he was the son of this second marriage and didn't have the, and that his family had fallen on harder times and he didn't get to have the education, he always had something to prove. And that really was the kind of the through line of the, until he had to get humbled. He was always trying to, thinking, well, I'm actually better.
He was trying to punch his way through until he found the brick wall that was actual warfare.
Yeah, when reality.
He was like, oh, wait, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Turns out at 20 years old, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, and I got a bunch of people killed because,
including my best friend.
I didn't listen to people who knew better than me. But so yeah, I don't know that the real George quite had that level of humility ever, even though he did, you know, like I said, he did some of the technical things. But yeah, we just no way to avoid.
Well, they said George as a president was remarkably humble because he didn't want the job.
He hated it.
He fucking hated it. He really, like, governing was not his stick, but he was there to hold it together. And, you know, he set the whole pace for the rest of our country by deciding to not be our king and going off to die of pneumonia and bleeding.
Yep. So let's get to the real meat. Let's talk about George accuracy. Historical accuracy. Now this movie, like I said, I was pleasantly surprised. I was expecting a way less.
The gist of it was good. The premise was solid. I mean, the details were hilarious.
It glazes Washington a bit here and there, but it uses some of his character flaws and some of the fuck ups, you know, to tell his story, and I appreciated him for at least doing that. So let's see. Starting off, I mean, they, you know,
didn't even talk about the love story.
Well, we talked about it a little bit, but again, that was also overstated. It's like there's letters that, you know, we could tell that him and Sally Fairfax, I mean, they wrote to each other their whole lives, and you know, it's like there's speculation that there was that one period where she like nursed him back to health. And there's speculation about what went on, and some of the stuff in their letters, there might be some innuendo in there, but we don't know. Either way, he did very clearly had feelings for her. And so they played that up, and they actually got a kiss in the movie, which, you know, may or may not have ever happened. Who knows?
But it was respectful.
Yeah. I mean,
she kissed him.
Yeah. It's not like they banged or anything, which probably happened in real life.
Well, I mean, later. This was still while she was a young maid.
Yeah, this is
unmarried.
Before she was married to his friend. Because, yeah, as a movie had the guy basically be his rival, whereas that guy is supposed to be his actual good friend in real life. But let's see, let's talk about the younger shit. Mary Louise Parker, her role was good, but my impression of Mary Washington was that she was a bit more of a dumbass. And in fact, Washington himself kind of described her that way. He thought of his mother as a bit of a simpleton.
Wow.
Like, look, with love and respect, but, you know, it's like she's just not that bright. That's not why Dad married her. Good birthing hips. So you want a woman with some girth. So, yeah, George Washington's father died when he was young, and then he'd already had to deal with the fact that his father had an older previous family, and he had this connection with his brother Lawrence, who
I think they overstated his education.
That is one of those things. Every time I saw him writing these perfect letters and all this stuff,
he's like, I'm the aide de camp, just like Hamilton was. Yeah, it's like, oh, look at these beautiful letters.
I mean,
no, I don't think that was it.
I mean, there were things like the whole thing where Washington wrote his own like rules of civility and stuff out of those books is a real thing, but it was also him copying shit as opposed to his own letters, which were badly spelled, had poor grammar, and like you said, one of the reasons he loved Alexander Hamilton is he did that stuff very well, as opposed to Washington was self-conscious about his writing abilities his entire life.
Which they did not bring that up.
No, this one
in the film.
The film.
They were like, "Oh, look at your writing skills! Isn't it beautiful?"
The film implied that Lawrence just took over and was just as good or better than any school ever could have been, and that just wasn't the case. Like Lawrence helped him out. And, you know, everybody did their best.
It was the best he could, but he was also like a busy dude.
I do believe it was his mother who taught him to read and write as best she could. And again, maybe a bit of a dumbass. Or at least not educated, she just made. Because it's like, so maybe calling her dumb is like even unfair. But the truth was she was a bit of a hick. She was a farm woman.
She was a Virginia girl.
So anyway, yeah, that's not there, and also too the whole. There was a bunch of. I mean, obviously they just skimmed and skipped a lot of shit, but I think some more things worth noting, like Washington's one trip out of the country was when his brother Lawrence, they tried, I forget exactly where they went. Was it Cuba or they went somewhere semi-tropical because they thought the climate would be better for Lawrence, but it ended up not working and he came home and died. But Washington went with him on that trip in real life.
Whereas in this movie, he just like came home from war and his brother was dead and he was sad.
Yeah, as opposed to it was a lot more long and lingering, and because they really tried to do everything they could for poor Lawrence, but he is sick, and TB sucks. I think one of the most important bits that was definitely not discussed, other than one mention, because his real life friend but movie rival, whose name keeps escaping me, the one who married Sally Fairfax. At one point, they were talking about who owns the land, and then well, whoever buys it, of course. And that's one of the things that was not talked about is, there was disputed ownership of all this fucking land in the Ohio territory. And Lawrence was a partner in this company that had a bunch of stake in this land. And Washington inherited that contract, upon Lawrence's death. And so, like, literally, the Washington family and George himself had a vested financial interest in winning that territory away from the French. And so that was completely skipped over. In fact, so it was only implied, only the asshole made a joke about that because, Washington kept saying, it's our land, not because, it's bought, but because we tame it as brave white men. And meanwhile, the natives were like, what the fuck? Yeah. We're right here. We've been here the whole time. But at least
at the end of the movie, that attitude, like, you guys switched over to the French. He was like, "Yeah, you guys suck ass.
Yeah, we'll switch with whoever. We're here to
fight all of you. Actually,
use you guys against you. So you guys should all shoot each other, and we will take care of the rest of you." But it's like this thing. But the attitude of pretending like it's just this unclaimed territory, because until a white person sticks a flag in the ground, it don't count. So that was definitely one of the little inaccuracies there. Besides, when it came to that, it's like Washington literally had something to gain, and which is why, like, the transition from him being this scrappy young underdog to when he became president of the United States was the richest motherfucker in the country. We've never had a richer president until now. And that was partly because of the success, the ultimate success of the campaign. So let's see. What else in terms of stuck out in accuracy? I think that even though they made sure they were there enough to see we're being fair, they sure barely mentioned slavery, and in the way they dealt with the natives was just sort of kind of what you'd have to do for the fact of their own role.
Did you have to take your spoonful of sugar to make the medicine go down? It's a movie.
But yeah,
I understood. They didn't. It wasn't offensively not there either.
It made sure that by the end, the black slave was on the side of the Virginians and helping them reload their muskets. He went and grabbed a powder barrel for them, also dead French people.
And I mean, he was like, we were sent to fight for our masters. Yep, he was just like,
and then his son died.
They sent you to die.
But then when his son died, he's like, oh, fuck the French. I'm here to help you kill the French. Despite the fact that me and my son would be fine if he had not been sent here at all. Because we are slaves to Virginians like you, Washington, the guy who had 10 slaves when he was 10 years old.
Yeah, but he wasn't really helping those Virginians. He was helping the scrappy.
Yeah, he's helping the scrappy ones.
The rednecks.
They were under the command of slave-owning George Washington. Whatever. Like I said, it just
George Washington was not really, well, I guess his mom was, they had 10 slaves. I guess they did say that at the beginning.
Once Lawrence died, he owned Mount Vernon.
But Lawrence wasn't dead in this movie.
He died in the movie.
He died in the movie, but not until he got home.
By the end of Lawrence was dead before he went back out again, before the big battle, at least in the movie. Yeah, remember? It's like, your brother,
that's right.
Your brother's dead. You need to get back out there because failure taught you a lesson. So yeah, the last part of the movie, he owned a plantation.
That's right.
With dozens of slaves. He was badly in debt and all kinds of problems.
His boys loved him. That's what really mattered.
And he can smoke cigars. We also, you did see a little bit of pipe smoking in the movie, but Washington himself, you did not see him hitting the tobacco, which I assumed was one of the reasons his teeth sucked. It's like
So
smoking.
his teeth sucked as a very young man. Like
Oh.
he had like some kind of like orthodontic
Oh no, yeah, he was.
issue.
He,
Like
he had gross.
he had some kind of
He had gross teeth, but I'm also assuming he smoked since he was 6 years old.
just out there chewing tobacco.
Chewing tobacco,
Right from the
smoking out of a little corncob pipe, boofing whiskey. Let's see. Oh yeah, so they did the whole thing about George Washington getting his horse shot out from under him, and the bullet holes in his clothes, which are real things.
which they didn't talk about him changing his pants
And the thing
or having to shoot his last horse because it smelled like shit.
there was things about testimony from and some the French ally natives who did remark about the fact that it's like we shot right at him and he lived. And but they turned that into the George is the warrior of destiny. You're destined to become president. That is why.
That
is why God won't let you die.
Funny. Why did they? It's like honestly, if they had not added that little nugget of just ridiculousness,
it's like
the movie would have actually like it would have been mostly fine. But they were like, oh, we have to take this one step further.
It's like once we already had the incredible action sequence, like, no, you're invincible for a reason because God has chosen you to be president of the United States. What's that? Don't worry about it. It's going to be great. It's going to be real big, though.
Oh.
So, yeah, the movie, more accurate than I thought. Now, it also shuffled events around and simplified relationships and did all that. But you have to do that. That's just standard adaptation stuff. But those are, I think, the biggest sins we've kind of covered.
All in all, I have more problems with the movie studio than I do the actual movie. The movie was sort of fine.
Even the parts we were talking about, we laughed.
It was fun.
Like, even after we got past the serious stuff and we got to the ridiculous stuff, it went from a holy shit action movie to, oh my God, that's hilarious. Holy shit, he literally has been anointed by God, but it delivered through people who
the Native Americans.
Yes, because it has to be the people from this land letting him know that he is the chosen one.
He is of this land.
He was born here just like them. We're all Native Americans. God. So then, yes, and then the fact that it went from there to literally pitching us to keep buying tickets.
Yeah, the QR code.
Keep this party rolling.
I mean, truly, it's like I was glad that I had ordered a double vodka at that point because I was like, oh yes, I'm enjoying the last half of this sequence very well. Thank you.
You will have a good time at this. Is like I said, I recommend you enjoy this movie paying exactly as much as we did.
Which is nothing.
So if you don't have a friend to let you in through the fire exit door, just wait until it's out on streaming, which will probably be in 3 weeks because nobody was there.
Nobody was there. There was 2 old dudes in our theater.
Yeah, and we don't count. We didn't pay for shit.
All right, y'all. That's it.
That's it. We've gone full circle. I think we're done with young Washington.
Now we can move on to
old Washington. Well, he never really got that old.
Well, middle-aged Washington.
Middle-aged, oh fuck, I'm dead Washington. See ya.
Bye.